There is a mistake so common, so deeply embedded in the mind of men, that it quietly destroys their chances before they even realize a game is being played. It is the belief that a woman's words are a direct reflection of her truth. Listen carefully, because this is where most men lose without ever understanding why. A woman will tell you what is acceptable, what sounds right, what aligns with the image she wishes to present. She will speak of honesty, of kindness, of emotional openness. She will say she wants a man who listens, a man who is always there, a man who makes her feel safe. And the naive man obeys. He listens closely. He follows instructions like a loyal student. He becomes softer, more available, more agreeable. He suppresses his edge, hides his ambition, controls his dominance, all in the hope that by becoming what she says she wants, he will finally be chosen. But something strange happens. The more he aligns himself with her words, the more invisible he becomes. The attraction fades, the excitement dies, and eventually she turns her attention elsewhere, leaving him confused, betrayed, questioning what went wrong. What went wrong is that he listened to what she said instead of observing what she responds to, because feminine nature does not operate on spoken logic. It operates on emotional instinct, and instinct does not speak plainly. It reveals itself through patterns, through reactions, through contradictions. A woman may say she wants a man who is always available, yet she feels drawn to the one who is difficult to reach. She may claim she values kindness above all, yet she becomes captivated by the man who challenges her, who disagrees, who does not bend easily to her will. She may insist she desires honesty, yet she is intrigued by mystery, by what is not fully revealed, by the man she cannot completely figure out. Do you see the pattern? Her words describe comfort, but her emotions chase tension, and tension is where attraction lies. This is the illusion, the quiet deception not born from malice, but from the complexity of human nature itself. She is not lying to you in the way you think. She believes her words. In the moment she speaks them, they feel true. But her deeper instincts, the ones shaped by evolution, by emotion, by subconscious desire, do not follow those words. And it is those instincts that decide whether she feels attraction or indifference. The man who fails to understand this becomes predictable, safe, easy to control, and in becoming everything she says she wants, he removes the very qualities that make him desirable. Predictability kills tension, and without tension, there is no spark. But the man who understands this secret moves differently. He does not argue with her words. He does not try to expose the contradiction. That would be foolish. Instead, he observes. He watches what captures her attention. He notices what kind of man she responds to, not what kind of man she describes. He sees how her tone changes, how her energy shifts, how her behavior contradicts her statements. And from this, he learns the truth. Because behavior is the language of instinct, and instinct never lies. He understands that when she says she wants constant attention, what she truly responds to is selective attention. He understands that when she claims she values emotional openness, what actually attracts her is emotional control. He understands that when she says she wants a man who makes her feel safe, what truly captivates her is a man who is powerful enough to create both safety and uncertainty. This is not manipulation. This is awareness, and awareness is power. Most men live in reaction. They hear words, and they adjust themselves accordingly. They become shaped by external expectations, constantly trying to fit into a mold that was never designed to create desire. But the man who sees beyond words becomes untouchable. He no longer seeks validation through compliance. He no longer molds himself to please. Instead, he maintains his frame, his identity, his presence regardless of what is said to him. And this creates something rare. It creates curiosity, because a woman is used to men reacting. She is used to men adjusting, explaining, proving themselves. But when she encounters a man who listens yet does not immediately submit, who understands yet does not chase approval, she feels something different. She feels tension, and tension leads to intrigue. Intrigue leads to attraction. Understand this clearly: the game is not played in what is said. It is played in what is felt. Words are surface, emotions are depth, and most men never dive deep enough to see what truly controls the outcome. So they remain trapped, chasing clarity through conversation, seeking reassurance through explanations, trying to decode attraction through logic alone. But attraction is not logical, it is experienced, it is sensed, it is revealed in fleeting moments, in subtle shifts, in the unspoken space between words. The man who masters this does not ask, "What did she mean?" He asks, "What did she feel?" And in that question he finds the truth others will never see. There is a dangerous illusion that men are taught from a young age, a belief so comforting yet so destructive that it quietly suffocates attraction the moment it is fully embraced. It is the idea that if a man provides enough certainty, enough reassurance, enough consistency, he will become irresistible to a woman. But reality does not reward this belief. In truth, the more predictable a man becomes, the less he is desired. Listen closely, because this truth is subtle, and most men never recognize it until it is too late. At the beginning of every attraction, there is a spark, a tension, a sense of curiosity that pulls two people toward each other. It is not built on comfort, it is not built on security, it is built on the unknown. She does not fully understand you yet. She cannot predict your next move. She does not know how much you like her, how far you will go, or how deeply you are invested. And in this uncertainty her mind begins to wander. She thinks about you when you are not there. She replays your words, your actions, your tone. She tries to decode you, to understand you, to gain clarity. And in this process her attraction grows, because the mind is drawn to what it cannot fully grasp. But the moment you remove that uncertainty, the moment you become fully predictable, everything changes. The man who texts every morning at the same time, who is always available, who reveals all his feelings too early, who makes his intentions completely clear, believes he is building trust. But what he is truly building is certainty, and certainty kills the tension that attraction feeds on. When she knows exactly how you feel, exactly what you will do, exactly how you will respond, there is nothing left for her to discover. No mystery to solve, no emotional movement to experience. You become stable but not stimulating, reliable but not exciting, present but not desired. And slowly, without any dramatic moment, without any clear reason, her interest fades. Not because you did something wrong, but because you removed the very element that made her feel something in the first place. Uncertainty is not confusion, it is not chaos, it is controlled unpredictability. The man who understands this does not disappear completely. He does not play childish games, he does not act erratic or unstable. That is weakness disguised as strategy. Instead, he creates a rhythm that cannot be easily mastered. Sometimes he is present, fully engaged, attentive, and in those moments she feels his presence strongly. But then he withdraws, not out of fear, not out of insecurity, but because his life, his purpose, his priorities do not revolve around her. And this contrast, this shift between presence and absence, creates emotional movement. She begins to feel the difference. When he is there, she feels it. When he is gone, she notices it. And in noticing that absence, she begins to think about him more. Because the human mind does not obsess over what is constantly available. It obsesses over what is uncertain, what might be lost, what cannot be fully controlled. This is why the man who is always available becomes invisible. There is no risk of losing him, no fear of absence, no urgency to invest. He is simply there, and what is always there is rarely valued. But the man who introduces uncertainty becomes something else entirely. He becomes a question, and the mind is addicted to questions it cannot answer. She begins to wonder where you are, what you are doing, who you are with. She begins to question your level of interest, not because you are cold, but because you are not easily predictable. And in that questioning, her emotional investment grows, because she is now participating in the experience. She is no longer passively receiving your attention. She is actively thinking about you, analyzing you, trying to understand you. And this involvement creates attachment. Most men fear this approach because they believe certainty equals security. They believe that by constantly proving their interest, they will prevent loss. But in doing so, they create the very outcome they fear. Because attraction is not built on comfort alone. It is built on emotional stimulation. And emotional stimulation requires contrast. Light and shadow, presence and absence, clarity and mystery. The man who provides only light becomes blindingly dull. The man who understands shadow becomes unforgettable. This does not mean becoming distant or uncaring. It means having a life that does not revolve around validation. It means having purpose, direction, ambition, things that naturally pull your attention away. And when your attention is not constantly fixed on her, it becomes valuable, because attention, when scarce, becomes powerful. She begins to earn it, to seek it, to value it, not because you told her to, but because you did not give it freely at all times. This is the paradox most men cannot accept. The more you try to secure her through constant attention, the less secure your position becomes. The more you allow space, the more she moves toward you, because attraction is not about holding on tightly. It is about creating a dynamic where she chooses to come closer. And choice is born from uncertainty. A woman does not feel excitement for what is guaranteed. She feels it for what is possible, but not certain. And the man who understands this does not chase stability at the cost of desire. He balances both. He provides enough presence to be felt and enough absence to be missed. He reveals enough to be known and hides enough to remain intriguing. He becomes someone she experiences, but never fully predicts. And in that space, desire has room to grow. There is a comforting lie that men cling to, a belief that if they love deeply enough, give generously enough, and devote themselves complete, they will earn a woman's desire. It is a beautiful idea, and it is precisely why so many men fail. Because attraction does not obey the rules of fairness. It does not reward effort in the way men expect, and it certainly does not bow to devotion alone. A woman may appreciate your love, she may even admire your loyalty, but what ignites her, what pulls her in beyond logic, is something far more primal. It is power, not the loud, arrogant display of dominance that insecure men perform. Not empty control or forced authority, but quiet, undeniable power, the kind that does not need to announce itself, the kind that is felt the moment you enter a room. Understand this clearly. Love is comforting, but power is captivating. Love can make her feel safe. Power makes her feel something she cannot ignore. This is where most men become lost. They lead with their hearts before establishing their presence. They offer commitment before creating desire. They give without first becoming valuable, and in doing so, they reverse the natural order of attraction. Because a woman does not fall for a man simply because he loves her. She falls for a man she perceives as powerful, and then she allows herself to love him. Power comes in many forms. It is in your purpose, the direction of your life that does not bend for anyone. It is in your emotional control, the ability to remain grounded while others react. It is in your standards, the willingness to walk away from what does not meet them. It is in your presence, the calm certainty that you do not need approval to exist, These are not traits that can be faked for long. They are built through discipline, through experience, through a refusal to become weak in the face of desire. Because desire is where men often surrender their power. They see a woman they want and suddenly, their focus shifts. Their priorities change, their boundaries weaken, they begin to chase, to prove, to seek validation. And in that moment, the power dynamic shifts. She feels it instantly, not through logic, but through instinct. The man who was once centered becomes reactive. The man who once had direction becomes distracted. The man who once held control begins to give it away. And as he gives it away, her attraction fades. Because attraction cannot survive where power is absent. This does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. It does not mean suppressing emotion or pretending not to care. It means never placing your desire above your self-respect. It means never allowing your need for her to outweigh your control over yourself. The man who understands this does not rush to prove his love. He allows it to develop slowly, naturally, as a result of mutual investment. He does not overextend. He does not overexplain. He does not give more than what is returned, because he knows that love without balance becomes weakness. And weakness is not attractive. Consider this carefully. Why is it that a man who is busy, driven, focused on his goals often attracts more attention than the man who is constantly available? Why is it that the man who can walk away holds more power than the man who clings? Why is it that the man who is respected by others is desired more than the man who seeks validation? Because power creates perception, and perception shapes attraction. A woman observes how you move through the world. She notices how others respond to you. She feels the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you handle pressure. And from these observations, she forms a silent judgment. Is this a man who leads or follows? Is this a man who controls his emotions or is controlled by them? Is this a man who chooses or a man who begs to be chosen? These questions are never asked directly, but they are always answered, and the answers determine everything. The man who is driven by love alone becomes predictable. He becomes easy to understand, easy to control, easy to replace. But the man who is grounded in power becomes something else. He becomes selective. He becomes disciplined. He becomes a man who gives love, not out of need, but out of choice. And that choice is what makes it valuable, because what is freely given without limit loses its worth. But what is given with intention, with control, with discernment, becomes rare, and rarity is attractive. This is the shift most men must make, from seeking to be loved to becoming a man worth loving, from giving everything to giving with purpose, from losing themselves in desire to mastering it, because when a man masters himself, he no longer fears loss. And a man who does not fear loss cannot be controlled, and a man who cannot be controlled holds power. And power is what creates the kind of attraction that does not need to beg, chase, or convince.